of this recording where it said nobody wants to work. Like nobody wants to go to a job. In fact, I see more and more people either quitting, walking away, doing freelance stuff because many of these jobs want to hire part time, but they want you to have full time accessibility, right? They want to pay you, but only at pennies, $12 an hour, $13. That's crazy. So it's hard to sit down and work, especially when currently the economy keeps inflating, right? Everything we're buying keeps going up in price, which means we need to work harder, work longer to make up the balance. So it's hard to come home and be like, oh, I just worked, 8, 10, 12 hours or more, depending on your occupation. So how do you find that motivation to sit down and finally write? And I think the main key here is not to treat writing like a second job. It shouldn't be a second job. It should be a hobby that you use to escape reality. That's what it is for me. Now, obviously, that might change a little bit depending on your genre, because if you're writing a book based in reality, well, that's going to be a little harder. But for most of us, when we're writing, we're trying to write a book of escapism. And I think that's what you need to connect to. When you're working, when you're out doing this, doing that, think I get to go home and escape reality for 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, however long you're going to write. And then just put yourself into it, pour yourself into it. But don't be afraid to let some of those experiences from your reality influence the extraordinary thing that you're putting on paper. Because I think that's going to help you to grow your story and build your characters. Most characters shouldn't be, and we're going to talk about this next week, actually, the next episode. Uh, most characters are going to be based off of lived experiences. They're not going to be typically cliche or some, mamba jamba, whatever type of character. They're going to be people that are very real to you and to your readers.
Yep, I agree. It is hard to break that monotony, and you know, I've had a struggle with that for quite a while, and I think uh, you've mentioned it. You have to make the time. Not it's not that you don't have time; you need to make the time, which is very much true for a lot of people, including myself. Um, Depending on your stress level from your job, like Eric mentioned, a lot of companies are wanting to do part-time, or if you are full-time, they expect you to be on call 24/7 sometimes, depending on your
Mm,
position and your job. And that can eat away not just at your time, but also your psyche, because you're thinking to yourself, all I do is work. And now I'm going to write, depending on if you're trying to do writing full time, at say writing is your job, then it is your job. I mean, you should still come at it from Eric's point of view of it's an escape from reality, but it is your job. So that might eat at you as well if writing is your thing. Even if it's not writing fiction or writing for an audience, say you do writing as a job for a company, then you go and try and write fiction, it's going to be very hard to break between those two as well.
right.
But uh, I think, and it's going to sound very cliche and very ironic, because if you know who we are, you know that Eric and I are related. But some of the best advice that I've gotten about writing came from Eric. I have gotten advice from other people and inspiration from other people. But the two main things that have always stuck with me for a very long time is just write, even if it's crap, because nobody had ever said that to me before. And you have to make time, which I have heard it before, but um, just coming from somebody I know compared to a fellow colleague, writer colleague or whatever, it's a little bit different. So, but I think one of the biggest things to do is to break out of your head that it is work. And that is something I really need to work on too, because if I go to sit down, especially with wanting to do the final book in this trilogy that I've put my heart and soul into, I start to think, crap, this is work. What am I going to do? Like, it's not coming out. It's not going the way I want it to. And that's something in and of itself too, because and we'll get into writer's block. I think this is a huge part of what writer's block is. And I'm sure Eric and I will probably just have kind of a whole debate on writer's block. I don't know if you consider writer's block a thing or not. Some people don't. Some people are like, there's no such thing as writer's block. Either you want to do this or you don't. And we'll get into that in a future episode. But I think for me personally, breaking through to reach your goals, it has to be a personal choice. You're not going to make yourself do it, because if you try and make yourself do it, then you're not going to do anything. Even if you have somebody holding you accountable, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, that's not going to work for you either.
Right. I think that the main thing here is you just have to find a way to break through and reach your goals. Start small, bite-sized pieces, morning, evening, or whenever you have time. 15 minutes to an hour to start. And remember, if you were to write a page a day for 1 year, so if you were to start today, then by this time next year, your book would be finished, assuming that you're sticking around the 250 to 350 page mark. The biggest thing, or the last thing I can tell you, and Justin has already kind of touched on this, don't worry about how good your story is when you're writing the first draft. Don't worry about the mistakes, the spelling errors, the grammar errors. Don't worry about whether or not the plots line up. Get your idea down on paper. Just write it. Freehand it, let it flow. And when that's done and you go back and read through, then you can start pulling it apart and piecing it back together the way that it should be. Nobody writes a first draft and submits that for publication. It would never get picked up. Most drafts are rewritten 5, 7, 10 times before publication is finally willing to take it and put it out there. So don't worry about your first draft. Just write, get it done. And that's it.
Unless you're self-publishing, but even then, you should be doing multiple drafts,
You
because
should always do multiple drafts.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, when I first started writing, I did one, and then after nothing got picked up, I did a couple more. I didn't set a 5 to 7 goal for myself or anything. I just did it until I was happy with it. I had Eric read through it. I had a couple other people read through it. The one thing that inspires me, going back to the inspiration more than anything, is if I give it to my wife and she reads all the way through it and likes it, that inspires me to keep going. Because one, she's not much of a reader, and she'll admit that. And two, again, somebody close to you likes it, which that's not always a good thing to go by. Yes, it's a good story. We'll get into that in another episode as well. but it empowers you that somebody likes your book. If it's somebody close to you, or even if it's just an acquaintance, that it's even better. But one quick thing about breaking through to reach your goals: have you ever used meditation to calm yourself or anything like that, to kind of break through the monotony, to try and inspire yourself a little bit more?
Yeah, I think a little bit. Well, you guys don't know, but Justin knows I'm a fan of of meditation, and this doesn't have to be anything spectacular. For me, as of late, my greatest meditation is simply breath work, breathing
Mhm.
meditations, grounding work, basically, where you simply inhale for 3 to 5 seconds and then exhale for the same amount of time. And that really helps center you, helps ground you if you believe in that kind of thing. It basically just helps relax your body, is what it's doing.
Mhm.
And when your body's relaxed, your mind is relaxed, and vice versa. So I definitely think meditation is huge. At least for me, it's been very helpful when it comes to trying to get some of this writing done.
Right. Well, guys, be inspired, get to writing. We're going to get more into all of these great things that it is to be a writer next episode, but we will see you guys next time. Okay, where's my there's the step.